tonight. Parts of the province dig out from a powerful snowstorm. Regina's mayor heads to Washington to talk tariffs. And dreams are taking flight for some Saskatchewan pilots in the making.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Friday, March 28th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you for joining us. People across the province are digging out after an early spring snowstorm. Snow, freezing rain, and wind have hit parts of south and central Saskatchewan. And as Liam O'Connor reports, it may take a while for everything to melt.
The calendar says it's almost April, but in Saskatoon, it felt more like the middle of winter Friday. The city says it got around 12 centimetres of snow and declared a snow event. Graders, plows, and sanders were out clearing priority streets and keeping the sidewalks from icing over. Highways also took a hit from the storm. Parts of Highway 11 and 16 outside of Saskatoon were closed early Friday, but have since reopened. But travel was still not recommended on other highways throughout south and central Saskatchewan later into Friday. The storm even kept mail carriers from their appointed rounds, with Canada Post cancelling or delaying mail service in certain cities. But the storm should be gone by the weekend. That doesn't mean the winter weather will be gone. Temperatures are expected to drop below normal.
For the weekend, for example, we're looking at daytime highs in the kind of -5-ish range. And then, come Wednesday, we're back to about normal for this time of year. Normal is a high of 6 and a low of -5 for the Saskatoon area.
Desjardins says we should be around +5 during the day and around -5 at night. But overnight temperatures are expected to drop into the minus teens until early next week. The snow may be a nuisance for commuters or people wishing spring would finally come, but the wetter snow that falls in early spring may help replenish moisture in farm fields. And heavy snowfall this time of the year is likely more common than you think.
Depending what site you look at, March is one of the snowier months of the year. In Saskatoon, it's the third snowiest behind December and January. So definitely not uncommon to see these type of events.
But for many, they'll hope this is winter's last gasp. Liam O'Connor, CBC News, Saskatoon.
A group of Canadian mayors traveled to Washington this week to call for an end to tariffs imposed by U.S. President Donald Trump. And among them was Regina Mayor Chad Bachynski. Chris Edwards tells us what happened.
Next week is D-Day for a lot of us.
Mayors from across North America voiced their concerns in Washington this week, as President Trump's next round of auto tariffs are set to begin April 2nd. Regina Mayor Chad Bachynski was among the 7 Canadian mayors invited to the event, co-hosted by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities.
Some of my points were, again, highlighting our industries: food, fuel, fertilizer, steel, really leaning into those industries that, we know we're a global powerhouse in.
The 2-day conference concluded with a joint statement in support of free trade, saying the tariffs would raise costs for businesses and prices for consumers.
Industries aren't created overnight. So the idea that by imposing tariffs, the U.S. will magically have an industry appear to take over the creation of resources, the creation of jobs, is unrealistic.
The mayors say that while provincial and federal leaders will lead negotiations with Trump, municipalities will be hardest hit by tariffs.
We've seen already the impact of these tariffs on our local economies, and that's why we're united in a call for the tariffs to end, for the trade war to end, and for national leaders to respect the free trade agreements that we previously signed.
Prime Minister Mark Carney has said that Canada will retaliate if the auto tariffs proceed on Tuesday. That would mean another chapter in our growing trade war, which now includes steel and aluminum products, on top of Trump's blanket tariffs on all Canadian goods launched last month. Chris Edwards, CBC News, Regina.
And Premier Scott Moe is also focusing on trade this weekend. He's on his way to Germany and the United Kingdom to promote Saskatchewan's strengths in food, energy, and manufacturing. Moe will address delegates at one of the world's largest trade fairs in Germany and will speak at the London Stock Exchange. Saskatchewan exports hundreds of millions of dollars in goods to Germany and the UK, including uranium, canola, and wheat. And while Mo is overseas, he is facing backlash from the opposition NDP. They say Mo needs to apologize for endorsing recent comments made by Alberta Premier Danielle Smith about the ongoing trade war. Alexander Kwan has more.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is facing backlash. It comes after Smith's interview with Breitbart News earlier this month. She told the right-wing U.S. media outlet that she'd asked the Trump administration to pause tariffs on Canada until after the federal election, all because it had boosted support in the polls for the Liberals. Smith's comments have sparked reaction from federal leaders.
She should be talking about stopping tariffs to protect Canadians, to just stop them entirely. She shouldn't be saying to do it in a way that benefits one party or another.
People are free to make their own comments. I speak for myself.
Premier Scott Moe said his Alberta counterpart is one of the strongest advocates for normalizing trade between the United States and Canada.
Premier Smith, I think, certainly has taken probably a similar approach that we have as well here, is using the contacts that she have, whoever they might be, to advocate and to educate on just how integrated our economy is.
But on Friday, the official opposition slammed Moe, calling him weak on Trump. They want to know what message Moe took to Washington when he traveled there with other Canadian premiers earlier this year.
He needs to apologize and withdraw his support for this action by Danielle Smith. He needs to come clean with the people of Saskatchewan on what exactly he told Trump and his people.
Smith continued her diplomatic efforts this week, traveling to Florida for a private fundraiser with U.S. personalities who have spoken about Canada becoming the 51st state. Moe didn't comment on Smith's travel, but said his focus is getting trade back on track between Canada and the U.S. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
Liberal leader Mark Carney spent part of day 6 of the election race not on the campaign trail, but instead working in his other role as Prime Minister. Carney had a phone call with Donald Trump about the ongoing trade war and the latest tariffs on the auto industry. It is his first conversation with the U.S. president since becoming Prime Minister 2 weeks ago, and both leaders called it a positive one.
We had a very constructive discussion, and we agreed to begin comprehensive negotiations about a new economic and security relationship between our two sovereign countries immediately following the federal election.
We had a very good talk, the Prime Minister and myself, and I think things are going to work out very well between Canada and the United States.
It was a noticeable change in tone from Trump, who referred to Carney by his first name and called him the Prime Minister, not Governor. He also made no mention of the 51st state. In a social media post, Trump even thanked Carney for his, quote, attention to this matter. Well, it was a big day for several people wanting to be pilots in this province. They're getting ready to take to the skies while also serving their remote northern communities. Helena Mahalik reports.
Why can't we be pilots?
The dreams of 9 young Indigenous people are taking flight. They're the first cohort in a fully funded program that's helping Indigenous people from northern Saskatchewan become professional pilots. Ground training began in early January, and some pilots have already gone on solo flights. Taylor Little is from Whitefish Lake. She dropped out of university because she couldn't afford tuition. Then she saw this opportunity.
I applied because it was like a really great opportunity. You know, you don't just come across being a pilot just like anytime.
Little is one of 4 women pilots in the program. She says that means a lot to her.
It's great that there's more women coming into this field of work. It's pretty inspiring to women and especially Indigenous women.
Several Saskatchewan groups came together to provide this training, including Indigenous-owned airline Rise Air. The airline CEO says having planes flown by pilots from the north is what the program is all about.
These are some of the very best students that have gone through flight training here in Saskatchewan. They are Indigenous, but they are representative of the strengths of all youth here in the province. And they are going to make their communities proud, they're going to make us proud.
Wesley Mercady was a store manager in Fond du Lac. Now he's looking forward to the day he gets to fly a plane into his remote community.
It's going to be very exciting I believe they told us that they're going to do an event for our first flight up north, so back to our home community, so that's going to be exciting once that happens.
Rise Air plans to hire all 9 students after training has been completed. Nice says his next project is ensuring every one of his flights has a Dene-speaking flight attendant. Helena Mahalik, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Well, the snow is making things challenging for commuters in Saskatoon, but it has also caused dozens of collisions on highways. The RCMP say as of Friday morning, they've received 80 traffic-related reports, and of those, 38 reports were collisions within RCMP jurisdiction, including numerous jackknifed semis. And of course, you're expected to check the highway hotline before you head out as we head into the weekend. And Riley Lachuk will have the full details on what's to come weather-wise after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Students and faculty at the University of Regina gathered Friday for an event to honor missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. The event is called the Red Dress Workshop. The goal is to raise awareness of the ongoing issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. A white sheet with red handprints and a red dress was also hung inside Luther College at the U of R. People were invited to use red paint to put their handprints on it. The organizers say both the red dress and the handprint have symbolic meaning.
Red is a very strong color. It's a powerful color. It's like lifeblood, blood. Without that, we're not people, we're not human, we're not here. And women carry the lifeblood, right? Your generations stop without your women. Life stops without your women. And I feel like the red dress is also important when people hang it to show that they have the solidarity, because the woman who wore that dress is gone.
The event was organized by students of the Feminism and Activism class. Well, the 2025 CFL year is set to get underway with the draft on April 29th, but there is still some 2024 business to take care of. Some teams are facing fines for going over the salary cap, including the Riders. The Green and White will pay a dollar-for-dollar fine of just a little over $40,000, but that pales in comparison to the BC Lions, who went over by almost $350,000. The Lions will lose both their first and second round draft picks as a result. Those picks will go to last-place Calgary Stampeders. 3 other CFL teams also went over the salary cap. Well, earlier this week, the Saskatchewan government announced its plans to scrap the industrial carbon tax. And the Morning Edition's weekly political panel discussed why this was not in the provincial budget. Post media columnist Murray Mandrick has 2 theories.
Ridiculous answer, the really ridiculous answer.
I'll take both.
Well, I'll give you the ridiculous answer related to the budget, because the ridiculous answer related to why it was in the budget, and I don't believe for a moment that this is just a spur of the moment thing. I think this is calculated. I think they understood the impact of this all too well, and this is the impact that Scott Moe wouldn't address in the scrum yesterday. The impact on the budget that Scott Moe wouldn't address is the fact that, as Jeremy described, this is $431 million that's counted as revenue. It might be flowed through revenue, but it's still counted as the revenue that governments use to balance the books. Had they announced it 7 days ago or 7 days earlier in the budget, there would have just been absolutely no credible argument that this budget was balanced. Not that there was a particularly great argument that this budget was balanced, but there would have been absolutely no argument that was balanced. Now, that's the ridiculous answer. Here comes the really, really ridiculous answer. He is doing this, and he stated this quite openly. He's doing this because there are federal parties that have taken an interest in this particular issue in the current federal election, meaning Pierre Poilievre, as Jeremy described, is the one party and party leader candidate that is basically suggesting that we scrap this. Now, there is a legitimate argument to scrap this. I'm never going to say, gee, don't cut my taxes, because these are hidden taxes. There is a great argument that they're on our SAS Power bill, and we know that because the government outlines that in every SAS Power bill. There's a great argument that they're hidden at the pump, and we have been paying an additional amount of money for this. So I appreciate the government's argument for that. But if that's the case, run on it in the federal election. You've stated that you oppose this for years. This comes as no surprise to anybody. And the only reason, frankly, they haven't got rid of it is they've used it in past years to make past budgets look better. Now they're basically saying we want to do this because we want to have this as part of the election conversation in the federal election. In essence, it's trying to change the narrative. It's throwing a bone to Pierre Poilievre, which is the absolute wrong reason to be doing that, because that's not your job. Your job is there to run the provincial government, to present balanced budgets, and to put Saskatchewan people in the best possible situation, both fiscally and in terms of service delivery. This does neither, because once again, we have to ask questions of what's going to happen to all this money theoretically saved to develop small modular reactors, technology, etc., and what's going to even happen from a trade standpoint, because some European countries actually insist on the tax on heavy emitters.
Well, the worst of the snowfall is mostly out of the province now, but those chillier temperatures that we've been hearing about have begun setting into the province. But in terms of just how much snow we got, well, weather specialist Riley Lachuk has those answers for us, and he joins us now. Hi, Riley.
Well, certainly a bit of a snowy 24 hours across the province. We're not quite done with it yet, but I thought we'd look at some snowfall totals. These are as of Friday morning, so overnight Thursday into the day on Friday. Fort Sand near Fort Capel, 20 centimetres of snow, as expected in some of those higher elevations in eastern parts of the province. Toward the Duck Mountains there, looking at some higher accumulations throughout the night. North Battleford, 17 centimetres, Saskatoon coming in at 12. Really looking at accumulations anywhere between 5 and 15 centimetres generally across much of southern parts of the province. A little bit more yet to come through the day and even into the night tonight. I think some of us still seeing a few flurries here and there, but by and large, a pretty gray day, a mostly cloudy day, a little bit windy as well at times throughout the day. So some of this certainly blowing around. I know we did see some highway closures through the early part of the day, certainly because of the visibility and some of the snow that's been falling. It is tapering off as it makes its way west to east. In behind that, some colder air does start to set in for the weekend, which I'll talk about in just a moment. Daytime temperatures, -4 in Regina, -5 in Swift Current, -6 in Saskatoon. And yes, most of that warmth into that southwestern corner of the province now gone. +1 in Maple Creek today, replaced by some cooler Arctic air that has started to make its way into the province. And that's really going to be our story for the weekend here, is prepare for a bit of a cooler one as we get through the next couple of days. So the rest of this residual flurry activity makes its way off into Manitoba. By the time we get into the morning hours, mostly cloudy tomorrow, although I think we'll get some peaks of sunshine here and there throughout the day tomorrow. But there is another weak disturbance making its way along the international border that could bring us a few more flurries to extreme southern sections of the province through the day on Saturday. Sunday, a bit brighter, albeit a bit cooler as well for most of us as we get through the day on Sunday, but kind of a good day to kind of reset things as we get through the next couple of days here toward the new work week. In terms of snow to come, really a dusting to maybe a couple of centimetres left to come through central parts of the province. And again, as that weak disturbance makes its way along extreme southern parts of the province, maybe pick up another couple centimetres of snow out of some of that, but by and large, we're done with the accumulating snow for now, and I certainly hope this is probably our last major snowfall of the season. Although we could use the precipitation because, yes, it has been quite dry in parts of the province throughout the last few months here. -9 first thing in the morning in Regina, -11 in Saskatoon, looking at a cloudy -4 for your Saturday. We start to trend upward by the time we get to next week, although we're keeping mainly cloudy skies right through next week, -4 into Thursday. And for Saskatoon, -6 on the way for Saturday, staying below 0 right into the next work weekend. Ethan, we're looking at temperatures staying below seasonal right through next week as well.
Okay, well, there's always April for warmer weather. Thanks, Riley. Well, out west, the weather is a little different. Vancouver is popping with spring shades of pink. Yes, the cherry blossoms are in bloom, And to celebrate this time of year, the city is holding the annual Vancouver Cherry Blossom Festival. A number of pop-up events will take place across the city from now until April 28th, including picnics under the trees. Stay with us. We're back after the break. Welcome back. The latest Statistics Canada data suggests the Canadian economy saw a cool down in February after a solid start in January. The real gross domestic product rose 0.4% in January, mostly because of a boom in oil and gas industries. The first month also saw goods-producing industries rising 1.1%, but a lower retail trade has been weighing on GDP. One economist also ties February's slowdown to the end of the GST break mid-month, along with particularly harsh winter weather. U.S. tariffs are also expected to have a negative impact on growth this month.
Well, still a few flurries heading into your weekend as we head into Saturday, although be mindful that as we get through the night tonight, we could see some blowing snow, maybe some reduced visibility because we still have a little bit of wind kicking around out there, kicking up some of that snow. Minus 10 overnight in Regina, Saskatoon looking at minus 11, closer to minus 15 up the eastern side of the province into the parkland. Minus 27 in Cree Lake, La Loche, mostly clear tonight. Minus 20 to start. Most of the north looking at a pretty sunny day throughout the day tomorrow. A bit of cloud for La Ronge into Cumberland House. And as we get into southern sections, we are looking at considerably cloudy skies once again, maybe some flurries in extreme southern sections as we get through the day for your Saturday. Temperatures staying below seasonal, and Ethan staying below the freezing mark for this time of the year, looking at minus 5 by the afternoon in Regina. I think we get up to minus 4 tomorrow afternoon, and temperatures around Saskatoon minus 6 to minus 8 for your afternoon on Saturday.
Okay, jackets, gloves, boots, we'll keep them in hand. Thanks very much, Riley. And before we leave you, she is the most awarded artist in Juno history. And now Anne Murray will be getting a huge honor, the Lifetime Achievement Award.
And speaks to me of flowers that will bloom again in the spring.
And this is an award that does not get handed out often. The last time was 1989 when the award went to the Juno's namesake, Pierre Juno. The 2025 Juno Awards are this Sunday, and of course you can watch it all here on CBC television, beginning at 6 p.m. local or on CBC Gem. And that is it for us this week. And for more news anytime, you can always head to cbc.ca/sask or /Saskatoon. You can also subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel or download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend.